Welcome to another episode of the Jampack Report, today for March the 15th of 2021. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it's your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But for fans of Dying Light, could be an exciting week for you because announced on Friday, a new Dying Light 2 development update is coming this Wednesday, March the 17th. The official Dying Light Twitter account writes, "We've got a few words to share with you about the Dying Light 2 development process. Be sure to be with us next Wednesday." In a reply further down the thread, the Dying Light Twitter account addresses a fan at Honest Gamer who says, quote, "The previous news worries me a lot. I'm still kinda shocked this game feels like dev hell. I hope it's not another Cyberpunk, like be a good game but broken and lots of missing promises. They only have one goal. Create a better story and expand everything else. Gimme good news." Dying Light replies, "As far as I know, the definition of a dev hell requires the game to not be making any development progress, while Dying Light 2 keeps moving forward. We announced the game too early, but it's far from being in dev hell." Dying Light 2 was originally revealed back in E3 of 2018 with a launch window of spring 2020, but was then pushed back indefinitely. Throughout its entire development, major departures, sexual assault allegations, and reports of an overbearing CEO have not instilled faith in the game so far. But Wednesday could be an exciting day. Of course, this is a game that has been percolating for some time, and it certainly has had a rough go of it, and I'm sure the pandemic has not helped development in the slightest. But it's time to hear some news about this. We have heard reports of a leaked collector's edition. Some details have been shared out there online. So on top of that, if a collector's edition is being leaked, the game is probably, hypothetically, getting close to some kind of release date announcement. That seems to be when that kind of news does come out, so this could very well be at least giving us a time frame on the release, perhaps sharing a couple of snippets of gameplay. It would be nice to see an update on this game, but this is truly an homage to the idea of not announcing a game so early, because I believe people were playing an alpha build of this game back in E3 of 2016. That is 5 years. That's a bit too early to be revealing anything close to an alpha of a game, even if it is behind closed doors, and on top of that, to publicly show the game at E3 2018, that has been, again, going on 3 years now. Not necessarily unprecedented, but ideally you show off the game at E3 maybe a year, maybe 2 years, until the game is revealed. But that's not to say the game won't be successful if it is in fact getting a release in 2021, because people have been very excited about Dying Light 2. The original came out and it kind of took the world by storm in a way that no one really expected it would. It wasn't some kind of viral sensation, but it continued to receive free updates, and it was one of the first games that really did that kind of approach very, very well. And then additionally, whenever Battle Royale took off, they tried to experiment and bring a new mode into the game, which was pretty fun and well received by fans. And so Dying Light 2 was announced, and then fans got very, very excited yet again. But it seems those promises could not be fulfilled quite so quickly. And now we have an update that shares where the game sits today. So we'll find more out on Wednesday. And of course, I'll give you the updates as they come. But February's NPD report is in, and the PS5 is officially the fastest selling hardware platform in US history, according to NPD Group's Matt Piscatella, who took to Twitter to break down all of the biggest data points in a thread. Very interesting stuff here. If you don't follow Matt Piscatella, the man gives some insights. Very cool stuff here. But even with its new record, the PS5 could not outperform the Nintendo Switch, which continued to hold the top spot for the month, both in terms of unit and dollar sales, for a 27th consecutive month. The Nintendo Switch lifetime sales have passed those of the DS, making it the second best-selling platform in Nintendo's hardware family, behind the Wii, and the 7th best-selling platform in US history. According to GamesIndustry.biz on Twitter, 6 of the NPD Group's reported top best-selling titles of February 2021 also appeared in the top 20 charts of February 2020, and another 4 are the latest update to annualized franchises in last February's chart. The top 10 best-selling video games for both retail and digital in February 2021 are as follows, and it is worth noting that not all of these figures include digital reports because Nintendo does withhold them. At number 1, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. Number 2, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, followed by Persona 5 Strikers, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Madden NFL 21, Little Nightmares, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Again, I want to reiterate, Nintendo does not share digital figures, and yet Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury is sitting at number 1. That's very impressive. That means that game is selling incredibly well, and it pairs perfectly with the top selling piece of hardware for the month. Again, the Nintendo Switch continues to dominate, and that's largely because of the lack of PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series X's out on the market. But that is not to diminish the impact that Nintendo is having on the industry. The Switch is selling well because it's a good piece of hardware. Of course, it is also readily available, but it's a good piece of hardware with fantastic first-party games. Nintendo is continuing to really thrive this generation, even with new hardware out that dwarfs the power of the previous generation, and it makes the Nintendo Switch look absolutely minuscule in the grand scheme of things in terms of what it can do graphically. But the convenience of the Nintendo Switch, the welcoming nature of the Nintendo Switch, it continues to bring fans in around the world, and for good reason, because it brings a fun time. But if you do want to dive in, again, Matt Piscatella goes very in-depth here, writing in the top of the thread, quote, February 2021 consumer spending across video game hardware, content, and accessories reached a February record of $4.6 billion, 35% higher when compared to 1 year ago, and year-to-date spending totaled $9.3 billion, 39% higher than the same period in 2020. Gaming is thriving, and as we wind down the pandemic, again, I don't want to make it sound like things are over, but as vaccines are beginning to roll out, as people begin returning to the office, gaming is going to continue to be a big part of how people find entertainment because they've established new hobbies. They have established a new love for gaming in some places. And so this higher than average impact from the gaming industry is probably going to continue. Now, it might slow down some, but it's probably going to continue. And so it should be interesting to see how gaming continues to grow, and it is one of the biggest forms of entertainment around the world, dwarfing so many other industries, and you can see that through this month's numbers. But some good news for Game Pass subscribers. Outriders looks like it could be coming to Xbox Game Pass. News comes by way of another cryptic email tease that is part of the email marketing campaign from Team Xbox. But Melissa McGamepass writes, quote, Hey team, so much news today. Hope you don't mind if I add some more, although it's completely unrelated to the other announcements. That new game has been confirmed and is officially coming to the service. As always, keep this confidential. Before I go, I did have something I wanted to ask. Has anyone else noticed a mysterious signal appearing in the distance lately, or am I the anomaly in this situation? Weird question, I know. Thanks, Melissa. So, Outriders, the new game from People Can Fly, is a game in which you search for a mysterious signal and you have to kind of go research an anomaly. So people are beginning to read into the situation and insinuate and assume that Outriders is coming to Game Pass. This is a cover-based looter shooter, kind of think the control scheme in the layout of a Gears of War series mixed with something of a Division or a Destiny. This could be coming to Game Pass, and that is the best move that could possibly be made because it is a game that thrives on having a vibrant community. It has to have a large player base. And so if the game is going to be established as something that is potentially legitimate competition with the Division or with Destiny, it has to have a reason for people to dive in. It has to have a large player base to really cultivate that same kind of community that Bungie was able to make with Destiny, or that they have been able to establish with the Division 2. And so this could be something that we see announced this week. Would love to hear that announcement be made official, but the game is set to launch on April the 1st, so it could be one of the big games coming at the beginning of next month. Very much so looking forward to this game. There is currently a demo out now on the Xbox Marketplace, PlayStation Network, and Steam, where you can dive in and experience what the team has made. Of course, People Can Fly, team behind games like Bulletstorm, has been working very diligently to make something that is new and fresh, and although the narrative isn't something that I think is really impressing a lot of people, the game itself feels very good. I think that people are really enjoying what they have brought to the table, so I'm excited to learn more, and if this game is coming to Game Pass, you better believe that I will be definitely downloading on day one. You gotta love those day one releases. But speaking of Game Pass games, some of the recent Bethesda additions are getting FPS boost capabilities soon. The news comes by way of Xbox Live Programming Director Major Nelson and Communications Chief Jeff Rubinstein, who announced on the latest episode of Major Nelson's Xbox podcast that 5 of the recent Bethesda Game Pass additions will be receiving FPS boost soon, pushing all of them to 60 frames per second without altering the code of the game. The games include Dishonored Definitive Edition, Prey, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. Now, for those that don't know what FPS Boost is, it's a new feature for the Xbox Series X and S that pushes the frame rate of classic games to 60 frames per second or above, in some cases even hitting 120 frames per second in the case of Yooka-Laylee. This is fantastic because it bakes in one of the biggest standout bullet points that you see in many entire remasters without any kind of input or any kind of work from the original development team, some of which don't even exist anymore. And so that's very impactful here. In the world of Bethesda, though, of course, these companies still exist. These companies are now a part of Microsoft, and so FPS Boost is certainly a big possibility for even more future releases or re-releases. But in terms of the games impacted here, awesome to see that Prey is going to be in 60 frames per second, Dishonored 60 frames per second, of course Skyrim, the iconic standout Bethesda game, 60 frames per second, and Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 should not be ignored as well. Very good additions for that 60 frames per second compatibility. Excited to dive into these, and if you do want to check them out, plenty of Bethesda games on Game Pass currently. I dove into some Doom over the weekend, I downloaded Morrowind, started poking around in there. Awesome to see these games come to the service. But, of course, Game Pass is not the only place you can play some iconic Xbox games, because Forza Horizon 4, and of course many other games, are available on Steam. But Forza Horizon 4 released last week on Steam after being a Microsoft Store and Xbox console exclusive for a very long time, and it is currently sitting at spots number 2 and 4, well now 5, on the top global sellers for the week, ending in March 14th of 2021. Now these are two different versions of the game. One is the deluxe edition, one is the base edition. However you want to break it down, Forza Horizon 4 is continuing to be a strong contender in the PC space, and I wanted to talk about this because Benji Sales pointed it out on Twitter. He writes, Forza Horizon 4 took 2 spots on the Steam Best Sellers games last week, 2 and 4 for 2 different editions of the game. It also set a new peak concurrent player high today with 25,911 players. The game is doing fantastic on PC. I've noticed, he continues, that Forza Horizon 4 on Steam hits daily peak numbers at times that would be late afternoon and early evening in Europe. This leads me to believe it's doing well there. It's important as Microsoft lost lots of market share in Europe with its Xbox One, so PC helps get players back. Forza Horizon 4 is performing very well, and of course if you don't follow Benji Sales on Twitter, he's always performing these analyses and providing some insights. Awesome stuff here. But very excited to see Forza Horizon 4 prove the value of bringing legacy games to PC. And this is an example that can be followed by Sony, maybe even Nintendo in the future. That would be fantastic, but it's also a pipe dream. This just goes to show that even if you have a game from 2018, continuing to provide value, continuing to provide updates, continuing to give players a reason to come back to the game while also tapping into entirely new audiences, continues to help that game thrive. And Forza Horizon 4, in my opinion, is the best racing game of all time, and a lot of other players believe that too, because it continues to hit some impressive peaks over there on Steam and of course on platforms around the world. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about everything we talked about here today. But specifically, what do you hope to see at this Wednesday's Dying Light 2 developer update? Would love to hear what your thoughts, dreams, and expectations are. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic Monday. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.